Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name's Alpish Patel. I'm the Commercial Director of ProFinda, and it's a pleasure to be hosting your webinar today, Resourcing Reimagined, the digital transformation of the resourcing function with AI. So before we start, there are three thank yous that we must say. Firstly, thank you to our colleagues at Indian Express for hosting the webinar and getting so many of you to attend. Thank you to the speakers who will be sharing their stories with us today, to Mathangi, to Rena, and to Ice. And thank you to all of you that are joining. We've had tremendous response to this webinar, close to 500 people asking to join. So we really thank you for taking the time today to join the webinar, especially at this slightly late hour. So those three thank yous out of the way, let's jump to just some house rules for the webinar. So just so you're aware, the webinar is broadcasted live, but will also be available on demand after the session, both video and audio. We will have polls during the webinar. It'd be fantastic, and we would love to encourage you to join in. Please do save your questions for the end. You can type them into the chat and we'll address them all at the end. Hopefully there'll be time to address all of the questions. If not, we promise we'll get back to you offline. If you've got any technical issues whatsoever, please do use the Q&A text box, and one of our Indian Express colleagues will help you with those. And we do promise to get back to everyone on the questions. So we've got a super packed agenda today. So let me just give you a quick overview. So I'm going to talk about a couple of the broad themes that we see as ProFinda, and we talk to the spectrum of professional services firms globally. So we just want to describe a couple of themes by way of introduction. We then have Rena talking about the resource management maturity that Cognitus has been working on. We then have Mathangi that talks about some of the challenges of resource management when done at hyperscale with huge organizations. And then we have Ice from SAP talking about some of the broad industry trends that SAP sees amongst its professional services clients. Right at the end, we'll have the Q&A, and interspersed, we'll have these polls. So perhaps one of the most surprising things to ProFinda as a vendor to the industry rather than a professional services firm ourselves is we're often astonished that resource management isn't better invested in, because if you think about it, resource management is absolutely central to the effective operation of a global services firm. It's kind of at the center of the trifecta of engagement profitability and therefore organizational profitability, client outcomes and client satisfaction, and employee experience. So resource management sits at the heart of all of those three things, and it can really move the needle on them. And yet what we see in terms of systems and processes and tooling around resource management is surprisingly not as effective as it could be. Certainly, if we compare other industries, and if I think of an organization like Amazon that's constantly managing supply and demand and has a complex product supply chain rather than a talent supply chain, we see a lot more sophistication in the tooling that's being used. So we're often shocked at the maturity level, even in very, very successful companies we deal with, in terms of the resource management process, the tooling and the systems and the processes they have in place. We're also always surprised how difficult it seems to be to build a business case around improving resource management, the tooling, and the processes. Certainly, if we compare resource management to talent acquisition, we see a lot more maturity in talent acquisition in terms of the processes, the systems. So this is a constant surprise for us. So we often say that resource management is what, from our perspective, it's the least digitally transformed process compared to talent acquisition, compared to finance, even compared to procurement. And that has a very real everyday impact on the practitioners in workforce management and the practitioners in resource management and staffing. All of the daily operational tasks that you need to do in order to support the functioning of these companies seem to be far more difficult than they should be with the tooling around. So all of the the talent processes you need to support, all of the finance processes you need to support. Resource management sits squarely in the middle, and it just feels way more difficult than it should be to get the sort of results that you're looking for. So this is one theme we see across the industry in terms of the maturity, both in North America, in Europe, across the Indian subcontinent as well. So we just wanted to touch on that, and I think each of our colleagues on the webinar will also be talking to this point. So at this point, I would like to introduce our first poll. Now, please, I do encourage everyone to participate. And if I just read the poll question out. So we're super interested. As I mentioned, we had a huge response to this webinar, close to 500 people wanting to join. So we're really interested what brought you to the webinar today. Is it because resource management is a burning platform and your organization's looking at resource management challenges immediately? Of course, resource management is always going to be a general area of interest. So is it just to inform yourself on what's going on in resource management? Or is it potentially to also learn best practice from other colleagues? So we've got 60 seconds. So I'm going to encourage everyone, if you could share your reasons for joining today, that would be fantastic. So we've got a few more seconds. So if people would like to select an answer, I will shortly bring up the results. Okay, so for 30% of you, almost 30%, it feels like resource management is a burning platform and is something you'd like to address immediately. 30% of you, just over 30%, resource management is a general area of interest, and just over 30% to learn from your colleagues. So that's fantastic, and we're delighted to be able to enable that today. So with that, please allow me to introduce the first speaker. So Reena Shah from Cognitus. Now, Reena's been involved as a digital transformation leader, both for customers and clients. She leads with over 25 years of experience in the professional services industry and SAP. She's Senior Vice President of Delivery and Managed Services at Cognitus. And Cognitus is an SAP and ProFinda Gold partner with over 18 offices worldwide. So thank you for joining today, Reena, and I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thanks for having me, Alpesh. So I always love to tell this story and my journey, and it's been a great one. After I joined Cognitus, I actually took a 60-day tour to understand what are our pain areas and bottlenecks within the organization to help our organization scale and grow to the next level. And that was a strategic initiative for the board. And one common area that was found amongst the top three was actually resourcing. There were limitations in our current system and processes and what we were using. So, you know, the data points that we found in this journey was that we had inaccurate data, no real-time information of the current resource, our commitments, overlaps. We had situations where there was overbooking and conflicts, and there were other pockets of extreme underutilization. We did not have integration with other systems, which is another serious pain for us. We had multiple systems like success factors, a skills pipeline builder, our CRM software, which was HubSpot. And we really needed to kind of get to understanding that end-to-end workflow from all the different demands, supply, skills, HR, talent base, and everything. We really wanted something that had an ease of use. And I think that was the issue with the current systems and processes. The technical system and the way it was used wasn't adopted very well. So we needed a user-friendly interface. And we were really looking to take this to the next level with AI and predictive suggestions. So perhaps if we needed projects or services that needed certain skills, we needed it to mine the availability and come up with suggestions, perhaps an industry-based historical allocation that matches the correct candidates to the correct need and demand is what we were looking for. And then came our process, which was actually understanding our software selection and how to build a business case, because we really need to sell this back to the organization and get funding for it. I think it was interesting, even building the business case to be able to get the funds. And so, I think top of the list here is actually very relevant to the professional services industry, because managing resource allocations and underutilization has the most impact on your profitability. And so if you can quantify that underutilization and all your blind spots and actually allocate your dollar savings, you'll find probably a huge bucket of dollars just allocated right there. Understanding your demand supply gaps to help better planning for more just in time and avoid, your over planning, over hiring, as well as your costly short term impact of outsourcing. This would also help you a lot. And if you can quantify dollars and savings to that, it would have an impact. The employee morale and satisfaction is another factor, which I think actually was a key attributor as well. We personally in Cognitus had issues of overutilization, commitments, and I think that we wanted to provide a better work-life balance to our employees and reduce attrition. And we actually assigned quantifying dollars and savings to that as well. From a skills management, we really wanted to assign the right person to the right place at the right time. And this would result in better customer success and satisfaction. And we, in fact, assigned dollar value savings to that as well by thinking about what would be our net recurring revenue that we would get by better customer satisfaction, by revenue growth and expansion in our accounts. And we assign dollar values for that as well. And then I think finally coming up with what are the reporting generative AI needs that we had, right? And that would give us some future trend analysis for skills and what we would apply for career planning, development, training, which I think there was intangible savings in that as well. And almost things that you cannot quantify, but things that were spots that were actually blind spots that we were not currently doing. And I think that in this journey, that really created a very good business case for us. It was a really quick process to actually get approvals from our boards and start working on towards the onboarding and start of the project. We are probably now into that 180 days, 6-month mark, and we're actually going live at the end of this month. I'm very excited for that. We are probably on time. And actually, quite surprisingly, we wanted to get this implemented before the end of the year. It was a very aggressive target, and we are on target to actually get that done. What we are looking for in our future vision is that we wanted a single source of truth. Organizational-wide usage and adoption was extremely important for us. That was one of the reasons the current systems were failing us, current processes were failing us. We wanted to get to data-driven analytics and reporting. And this was important for the tool that we selected because we didn't have that capability currently in-house right now. And ProFinda provided a lot of that, as well as exception-based reporting and everything that we were looking for. And we also have implemented Power BI on top of ProFinda as well to give us additional dashboarding, reporting, and so on. We are looking for AI-based predictive models. That is extremely important for us. We are working with, trying to do more with less and trying to use technology to help supplement us. And that was an important part of the tool selection as well. And we are looking to grow as ProFinda brings in more technology, automation, and efficiency. So we're looking for workflows, as we are starting new projects and bringing on new resources onto the projects. How can we help them onboard them better, make them more successful? What trainings can we assign with the integrations that we will build in to success factors and others? And then, of course, the future of technology with blockchain and how we can do candidate verification. We do have freelance, subcontract, contract workers, and it could definitely help in those areas. And again, the full end-to-end integration was a very critical part for us, which we're actually accomplishing with about 4 integrations right now and an additional 1 to 2 in the next year. So thanks. Back to you, Apesh.
Thank you, Rena, for sharing your journey. So interesting. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for Rena after her talk. So please do use the Q&A function, and we will direct those questions to Rena at the end. So it's time for our second poll. So you should see it on the screen very shortly. And the second poll, you've got 60 seconds, so please do participate. And it's, what level of maturity would you rate from your current resource management process? So is it mature? And we would define mature as having a single system with all supply and all demand in one place, smart use of AI wherever possible. Is it legacy? So a very old process running on old systems, either built in-house or from legacy vendors. Is it fragmented? So do you use multiple systems in the process right now? Or is it super basic? So please do honestly rate where your organization is on the maturity scale. So please do participate. I'll give everyone a few more seconds, and then we will just, I'm fascinated to see the results, as I'm sure you all are. So if there's anyone that hasn't voted, if they could just vote now, and then we'll bring the results up shortly. Okay, any last minute voters? Great. And okay, so 23% of you are very confident that you have a mature process in place. 21% legacy. Fragmented at almost 50%, so multiple systems across the process. And very relieved to know that just 8% of you are using spreadsheets for your resource management. So super interesting poll. Thank you for everyone that took part. And now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce my colleague, Mathangi Latha. So Mathangi is the enablement lead at ProFinda for Asia Pacific, and she comes with more than 15 years of resourcing experience from companies like Capgemini and Accenture. So she's experienced resourcing, at hyper scale. She's a subject matter expert in resourcing and has successfully implemented major transformational projects in her previous roles. So Mathangi, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm truly honored to be part of this webinar today. Let's discuss some of the trends and the challenges in the space of global resource supply chain. And I would also like to share my insights on how an AI-powered platform can actually help us overcome these challenges as well. Now, service organizations worldwide have always faced challenges in terms of having a common target operating model combined with global platforms for resource management. While HR, finance, and project deliveries have fairly empowered with global tools and newer technologies, in most organizations today, we see that the resource management is still lacking in this aspect. Without a global operating model, there is always a silo approach, the geographical divide, and the entities operating differently within a large organization. Now, the need of the hour is to use AI to optimize and to also automate tasks within resource management, thereby bringing in more quality into the staffing process. There is also an intensified need to have a single source of truth, a total workforce view that includes employees, subcontractors across countries, enabling resource managers to view skills and availability on a global platform. Surveys have also revealed that the employee experience is one of the key factors while choosing any AI platform. So I'm happy to share some of the key insights from a huge transformation project that encompasses about 300,000 employees in my previous organization. I would like to split this into what we did that worked and some of the lessons learned as well. Yeah, so the entire implementation team was driven by just one objective, and that was from the leadership, which was to establish a single global platform for resource management. Therefore, all data from Excel sheets, local tools, and other systems were integrated into one global platform. We also spent a substantial amount of time to understand each line of business within the organization, and thereafter, we were able to blend their requirements before we transformed them into business outcomes. Now, implementations are only as successful as the change management is effective, right? So we had this mind and we set up several forums for both taxonomy and change management after we went live, and we brought in sparks from each of the business lines. Now, these forums help them participate, contribute, and also sign off on our releases. Although this was just a SaaS platform, but we built a catalog of reports and dashboards for management reviews, as well as for operational decisions. And these provided business units and staffing teams with a critical set of data-driven reports and key insights on their projects. Now, that's how it went well. Now, all transformation projects will definitely come with lessons also to take away. Like, considering this was a large scale on a multi-country deployment, a big bang approach could have probably saved us a few months and also saved us the need to manage multiple systems in parallel. Users always play a pivotal role in any implementation, and therefore it is essential to keep the end user experience in mind during all deployments. And for a conglomerate of merged and acquired companies like Capgemini, anticipating data volumes from legacy systems will have to be well thought of and planned for ahead of time so that business as usual is smooth and seamless. Moving on, let us see how we can approach some real-time challenges using AI and the impact that these powered systems can actually make on a large scale. So what do I mean when I talk about gold standard in any resource management platform? It means to have all demands and all supply in one global space where AI can then curate skills into a structured manner. It can automate matching and it can optimize data as well. Now, the reasons why organizations need to invest in such a platform are definitely multifold. The key benefits are that you can realize your revenue sooner as on-time fulfillment becomes a reality through AI matching. Huge volumes of skills can easily be curated through AI and brought about in a structured manner. By managing project economics well in advance, your clients will get better and appreciative outcomes also from their projects. You can also plan your engagements much ahead of time. You will have all the demand and data supply available within the platform. Now, better planning always leads to better profitability, isn't it? Now, even though I've listed this towards the end, employee engagement is one other key factor for any organization's success. A good AI-powered platform will always be designed keeping better employee experience in mind. It is also motivating for them because it helps them through their learning curve in the company. Now, what does gold standard look like in practice? We now have a short video to demonstrate exactly this.
Let us explore ProFinda as a workforce management platform. In the interest of time, this will be a bird's eye view of how powerful our AI-driven platform is. Our employee profile is rich and easy to maintain with AI suggestions on skills and details on one's industry experience along with their availability. Employees can book their own leaves and trainings in their calendar. They can also import or export CVs from the platform. But what I consider as the most powerful feature is the AI search and match, wherein the demands are directly matched against employee profiles, and it brings out a neat comparison and a specific matching score for each of them. This makes it easy for resource managers to analyze and select appropriate profiles at the right time with the right skills, grade, and location. We also provide the ability to compare those who have been shortlisted and approve or reject along with feedback. Allocating shortlisted profiles against a demand can be done with a single click And our booking engine provides all these details within its dashboard view. Resource managers can have comprehensive views of projects and resources that they manage, allowing them to cross-check utilization and available hours per employee and create bookings within very few clicks. We also provide bulk booking facility if you wish to move all of one's bookings to another. For example, when an employee resigns and his bookings need to be shifted to another. Having taken you through demand and supply within the platform, let me talk about the power of BI dashboards. ProFinda has both management and operational dashboards built for clients. These not only cater to resource managers, but also to those in operations, HR, and to the leaders in each of these streams. Our skills data is extensive and dive deep into gaplet analysis between available skills on bench vis-a-vis open demands. Timely insights on bench, top skills, etc. help the staffing teams to take appropriate actions to upskill or cross-skill bench resources. Trends on project performance, bench, and billable data can help leaders to understand where to invest, which skills to focus on, and also correlate improvements that happen year on year. HR can also use these trends to identify growth and attrition. Our operational insights to the staffing and engagement teams have proven handy in determining on-time fulfillment, lead time given to fulfill, whether demands were staffed with N-1 grades, and so on. These are both at the demand and supply levels so as to nudge the staffing teams towards some of the key decisions around hiring or backfills. Great pyramids help the delivery heads to analyze the budget vis-a-vis costs and optimize if need be. To conclude, ProFinda can be your one-stop shop for an efficient AI-powered resource management platform. Reach out to us for a more detailed walkthrough on our platform and dashboards.
So thank you, Mathangi, for sharing your journey at Capgemini and some of the challenges that you had. It's now time for our next poll, poll 3. So can we please bring the poll up? And let me just read this out. So what would you say are the biggest limitations of the resourcing process currently? Are the systems and data fragmented? Do you have poor skills data? Is it poor scheduling data? The demands themselves, are they actually captured? Are they poorly captured? Or some combination of all of the above? So please do participate. We've got 60 seconds to get everyone to vote, and then we can have a look through the results. And don't forget to add any questions for Mathangi in the Q&A. Okay, we'll just give it a few more seconds, and then we'll close the voting, and then we'll take a quick look at the results. Okay, anyone not voted, please do so now, and the results will be up shortly. Okay, and here come the results. So 24% fragmented across multiple systems. No surprise, given the scores fragmentation had in one of the earlier polls. 27% with poor skills data. Again, we see that a lot. Skills is a very awkward data set to manage. 17% with poor scheduling data. Again, we see this a lot, which is almost 30% with the demands are captured poorly, not codified properly. And wow, 44% with some combination of all of the above. So super, super interesting. So thank you to everyone that voted. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, Ice Chan from SAP. Now, Ice is the industry advisor for the SAP Global Professional Services industry team. looking after SAP's AI adoption and strategy while scaling industry cloud solutions. She works closely with strategic customers of all sizes, as well as SAP's product engineering, to ensure SAP's product portfolio supports the professional services companies in bringing out the very best in their business. So thank you for joining today, Ice, and over to you.
Thank you, Alpesh. So just to set the stage, I would like you to take you back to exactly 2 years ago. Have anyone heard of what a prompt engineer is just 2 years ago? I guess not really. But then after 2 months later, we see that there is a huge demand for a prompt engineer. And that is with the release of GenAI and ChatGPT. We see that there is a whole new skill set that we are becoming essential almost just overnight. So you see that companies are suddenly scrambling to hire experts that could harness the potential of AI. So why did I tell you this example is that this is just a clear reminder of how skills demand can really change rapidly. And we are also seeing a huge gap and a huge war for talent. In fact, studies have also shown that in the next 5 years, 44% of the workers' skills will be disrupted. So what we see is that there is a huge gap between what the people have and what is really needed. And that is also why we see that almost half of the HR leaders are seeing skill shortage as one of the top threats to the growth of their business. And what that I'm mentioning is especially significant and important to our industry, the professional services industry, where talent is the most valuable asset. We are the industry that sells really the intangible goods. It's the experts, the skills, the experience of our resources that is the most important. So what we are really seeing is that the success of a business directly linked to the question of how we are having the right people with the right skills at the right time. So it really calls our attention to that the future world of work requires a new workforce management strategy. But then if we go to the next slide, we could see that it's not really as simple as it is. There are a lot of persistent barriers that are holding our customers, a lot of companies out there back. So what that we have just mentioned is about the huge skill gap. And to address this, the companies are trying to have flexibility in scaling their resources quickly and to access the specialized skill. In the past, you might see companies that are really relying on a structured employee pyramid. You would see full-time staff based in their headquarters in the regional office. But then now we're seeing a shift, which is towards the hybrid talent strategy, which means that there is a blend of full-time workers, you see freelancers, contractors, and more. And in fact, actually really 70% of the organizations are reporting over 40% of their workforce are already contingent workers. So what really means is that we need to also manage the external talent in a holistic way in one unified system. But it's not always the case that we see different lines of business often handling their own contracting decisions. There's also no holistic understanding between like who is working in which department across the organization. And we also see that there is a siloed processes and responsibility because there's no harmonization, no matter for external workers or even for internal workers. We see that the data being collected are not the same. So there is a gap in between that creates failure in having an overall talent picture and also an incomplete workforce visibility. And because of this, there is also incorrect and inconsistent people profile. It's not just about outdated and not complete. It's also about how people are not really keep tracking all the skills that they have into one people profile. And usually it's especially around the skills. And that will make it difficult to match the talent into the right opportunity. And the reason behind is always for the employees, they would have to manage the profile by themselves, and they always just don't have the time to do it. And therefore, we see there is outdated, process-driven approaches, as we see in our previous poll just now. Actually, a lot of our audience, you all have also reflected to us that a lot of the companies are still relying on rigid processes. You might have a few systems, but usually are multiple systems having different data source, or sometimes we hear companies are still having the Excel-based processes. So there's a lack of advanced automation and intelligence adoption that we see here. And from what we observed, there are best practices for a future-ready workforce management. And that should focus on 5 key things that are on the next slide. The first one is, of course, the human-centric. What it means by human-centric. In today's competitive talent market, what we want to do is the companies to really attract and retain their top talent. So we are putting people first to attract all the potential candidates and also the current candidate. But putting people first doesn't mean you have to compromise your business goals. You align the individual growth together with the strategic business goals. And at the same time, you want to be skilled centered. You want to identify the right profile needed for the various jobs and projects, be it you have the skills for staffing, but also keeping track of these skills so that you can recommend skills or learnings based on these data set to the your employees. And also with what we have just mentioned is not just covering the internal employees, but we want to cover both the internal and external employees end to end on one company-wide platform, so that no matter you are gaining insights or you want to plan things out, who else that, how many employees that you want to get in, everything you have one single view to plan everything, which is based on a full workforce visibility. Meaning that to achieve everything that we have just said, we would need to establish a common people data model. So you need to unify a data model, be it if you're doing any recruiting, any onboarding, or any learning things, you would rely on this same unified data model, which includes all the, no matter personal details, assigned roles, leave records, work agreement, everything on the same database. So, and also with this database, actually, this is where you can take the data to train the AI so that your organization can enable automation and intelligent scenarios. And last but not least is really supporting agility, because we have just mentioned earlier, ChatGPT might be, Gen AI might be one of the example, but then there are a lot of other disruptive changes like COVID, or we see people are leaving the workforce recently. So the best practice we see is really how we can utilize advanced tools in searching and aligning individuals with the right skill set, but also even if you don't have people with the exact same skills, you want to find someone that is with a similar skill set. You want to create a compelling workforce experience that you can drive retention, attractiveness, and at the same time supporting the expansion of your company. So we recognize that resource management is a key focus, but at the same time, we understand that to truly support the organization, it's important that we really provide solution to cover the end-to-end business cycle of the company. And that's why at SAP, what we work on is really coming hand in hand together with different solutions to support the entire business process. So on the left, you see is our SAP portfolio. In the center is the cloud ERP supported by the business technology platform. And the outer circle is around the industry-specific solutions for ProServe, be it the subscription billing solutions, timesheet, resource management, and you also have the line of business solution supporting. And in the outer circle is around the ecosystem solution. That's where we work together with the partners in bringing the best of your company together with the AI-powered business processes. And on the right, this is where the different colored boxes actually represent our intelligence suite solution, the industry solutions from SAP and from partners, the business technology platform solution, as well as the extension, how they are coming into play and really supporting no matter which sub-processes you see in the ProServe world, and working together again with our partners. So this is overall at SAP how we are looking at our global trends and best practices.
Thank you, Ice. Really appreciate you giving SAP's perspective on what you're seeing in the professional services industry. So we're going to go to a poll now. So if you could bring up the poll question, please. Okay, so poll 4. And now this is about how much your organization is investing in resource management. So the question is, does your current organization, in your view, invest enough in resource management, given its central importance? So do you think the amount of investment is about right? So you're comfortable with the level of investment now? Do you think you could get away with less investment? Is it an over-invested area? And you think potentially this could be an area where the organization could save CapEx and OpEx? Or do you think the organization needs to invest far more in resource management, given its central importance? So three options. Please do participate in the poll. Again, super curious what the results of this poll look like. If you've got any questions for any of the attendees, please do put them in the Q&A box and we'll take them shortly. So we'll give everyone a few more seconds just to click one of the 3 options, and then we'll jointly review the results. Okay, anyone not voted for, could they please vote? Because we're about to close the poll, and then we can review the results jointly. Okay, so about 30% of you think the level of investment at the moment is appropriate and about right. Just 13% think you could reduce the investment, and over 50% think the organization needs to invest far more. So pretty consistent with the other polls we've had in terms of resource management central importance and the need to continue to invest to support the trifecta of profitability, customer satisfaction, and employee engagement. So we have just a few minutes left, and we want to get through as many questions as possible. So I'm actually going to direct the first question at Reena, and that was, you mentioned the business case. I'll be really curious, were there any skeptics around the business case, and how did you win them over?
So it was interesting. We did have our own internal tools that we were using. So our skeptics were, of course, our internal IT team and perhaps our resource managers that might have used other tools as well. And I think that by building the business case was very critical and involving them right up front, as well as creating what best in class look like and mapping it to our pain points, as well as to the tool that we were using, actually helped us a lot.
Okay, and a slight variation of that question, Reena, and that's in an environment where multiple systems are used across the talent supply chain, but particularly SuccessFactors, did you try and use any of the existing capabilities from any of the existing systems?
Yeah, we tried to definitely make sure that whichever was the core functionality for that particular tool stayed within that tool, and then define what was our integration point and the flow. So I think that by first designing what that end-to-end business process flow is looking like for us for resource management, and then defining which tool would house which process actually helped that, so we avoided any conflicts.
Okay, thanks, Reena. And now actually a question to Mathangi, and that was, what was the most frustrating systems limitation that you kind of wrestled with every day that stopped you being as effective as you liked at the process?
That is going to open a Pandora box, Alpesh, but I will try and answer it. So if I may quote a very practical situation that we faced. So one of our previous organizations where the leading automobile client wanted some niche resources. Now, as resource managers and HR professionals, I think almost all on the audience here will agree the amount of time it takes to screen through profiles to select the right candidate for a particular project request, whether it's client request or internal project request, no matter where the request comes from. But it takes a whole lot of time to go through each CV, to check the skills, to check if they are available, talk to them, and then understand if we can actually propose the candidate or no. If I think that was really, really very challenging for me. And each time it took a lot of days to get back to them with the right profiles. If we had a powerful platform which could probably do the search and match for me and complete the initial level of screening and give me a score, then probably it would have probably cut down my time into half. So I think that's what I would call out as a great challenge that we faced.
Yeah. And actually, maybe a question, and I think, Rena, if you could have the first answer and then maybe Ice, and that's where do you see the main use cases for AI, and what benefits were you expecting to deliver? Rena.
I think to us, the skill matching definitely, and the predictive piece with the historical industry mapping as well, and extracting the data and then definitely mapping that for demand supply matching is a really strong case. The exception-based reporting and predictive analytics are the second part of it as well, because to us, the conflict management, the prediction in terms of what our future demand supply is looking like for hiring trends and training trends, and skills gap as well was also important.
Okay, thanks, Rena. And Ice.
Well, if I could add in addition to what Rena you've already mentioned, because actually AI has been the big question in a lot of our meeting. The first question that comes up is always, what are the new capabilities, or what can we see in action? So staffing matching is one of the key one. And then if we look, zoom out a little bit, actually intelligent staffing would also involves the entire workforce employee journey. So we also see, in addition to intelligent staffing, is that we see from the recruiting side, from the sourcing side, from then onwards, how do we recruit the right talent so that we have the right one to staff into the project? Say, starting from the sourcing recruitment part, how do we write a good job description in seconds with all the right wordings, including the diversity and inclusion wordings in there? How do we generate interview questions? How do we analyze all the wordings and applications that we received from those applicants? So from a broader view, actually, we see really a lot of use cases from the employee journey side on top of the intelligent staffing solution.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Alpesh. I could actually add a use case that we are facing right now with regards to exactly what Ice said about the intelligent hiring. Because of technology and the transformation and the rate at which technology is transforming, the skills that we need is also transforming at that high rate. And for example, as we implement SAP, and with SAP's move to the cloud and BTP, and the integration, cloud platform integration, and the skills that are coming in demand with the cloud platform and the move to hyperscalers and so on, we are seeing a shift in skills, and we're actually trying to predict demand for, interestingly enough, opening up a practice focused on that, developing talent, developing training needs, as well as hiring external resources in that area. So that was an exact use case from ICE.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, actually, I'd be so curious to understand from SAP's fantastic vantage point, how quickly do you see SAP clients adopting new types of technology, Gen AI, machine learning, and so on? Be really great to get SAP's view on that.
Yeah, so actually on top of what you have just asked, so how quickly it is for customers to adopt into SAP AI. Actually is very they're very eager to see, and we are seeing again increasing eagerness in adopting the Gen AI capabilities. Be it just now what we have just mentioned about how do we recruit the new candidates in by, say, some of the examples would be just now we have mentioned about creating job description in seconds, and then having providing insights into the compensation. How do we have the one-on-one discussion with our employees to give the right payment and compensation to them every year? Actually, we also see that our customers are really already starting to adopt and seeing benefits out of the Gen AI capabilities. We see that they are already leveraging them, say, in some of the, even not just resource management, some of the finance side, is also leveraging technologies into having the intelligent line item matching that is really giving out a lot of the benefits that they could help out in the operational efficiency. So that actually there is really very much a lot of eagerness from the customer side, and then they are really adopting it.
Okay, thank you, Ice. Now, a question to Mathangi, and this is one that I know everyone wrestles with. So, and that is, how do you capture the current skill sets of employees without them having to manually update them? Because I think we recognize getting employees to manually update anything is a beyond painful process. So be super interested in your views to that. That was one of the questions from the audience.
Sure, we can do it in multiple ways. We can either input their CVs directly, and then all the refilled skills are done, and they just have to run through and see if this is all good and update if need be. We could probably also bring in from LinkedIn if they have a profile, or we could also do a bulk data. Have to do it manually. We could do it for them as an initial step.
Okay, great. And Mathangi, one of the other questions was, does ProFinda, I guess, have the option to look for partially booked resources?
Yes, we do have an option, and it's pretty easy actually, wherein you can filter the availability of resources. You want to see 50% available, 20% available, 100% available. The slider, and you can choose to see partially available resources as well.
Okay,
it's pretty easy.
So thank you for that, Mathangi. So there's a couple more questions, but I think they've been addressed already. So actually, we wanted to go to one final poll before we wrap up today. So if we could bring up the final poll question, and really one of the observations is there doesn't seem to be as many forums for resource management colleagues to share best practice and connect with colleagues and really help elevate the profession. So we'd like to understand how many people on the call today would like to be part of a forum, a group where we can discuss workforce management, resource management, staffing, best practice, connect with colleagues, maybe even have some events and get the chance to meet in person. So for anyone that'd like to be part of that community, please do let us know. And we at ProFinda will be facilitating and setting that up so that we can elevate the profession and copy some of the things that work so well amongst talent acquisition or finance, other areas where there's way more maturity and way more bodies out there thinking through what best practice looks like. So for anyone that wants to be involved or wants to learn more about that, please do click yes, and we will invite you to that. So we've reached the end of the session today. I'm going to repeat the 3 thank yous that we had at the start. So thank you to our colleagues at Indian Express for hosting the event. Thank you to all our panelists for sharing their stories and their perspectives. And thank you to the audience that have stayed the distance and joined at this late hour. Thank you for participating in the polls. It's been a super interesting session. And given the amount of interest we have, we're sure that there'll be follow-on sessions. So please do let us know if there's other topics you'd like us to cover as well. We will be sending out links so that people can watch the video recording as well. And we look forward to catching up with everyone in person. And then finally, for those of you that would like to learn more about ProFinda or any of the work we're doing with in the professional services industry, please do reach out to Haresh, and he will be sure to support you. So with that, we'll bring the webinar to a close. We thank everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.